Now, the organisers of Eurovision have announced plans to hold an emergency vote on whether Israel should be included in next year's Song Contest after several countries threatened to boycott the competition. Broadcasters from a host of countries, including Iceland, Spain and Ireland, say Israel should not be allowed to participate until the war in Gaza ends. I'm joined now by the singer and songwriter Billy Bragg and the journalist at the Jewish Chronicle, Josh Kaplan, both of whom are here with Leah and I. Very good morning to you both. Thanks so much for joining us. Billy, quick snapshot on this overall. Is this normal bit of politics that we sometimes see at Eurovision, or is this something very different?
Oh, it's different because it involves Israel, but I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary in seeking to ban a country because of their actions. Russia was banned a few years ago after the invasion of Ukraine. And I think if we have one rule for the Ukrainians and another rule for the Palestinians, it starts to look like we only care about white-skinned people and not brown-skinned people. Yeah,
and to Billy's point there, Josh, often these campaigns, they live and die, don't they, on public perception. What do you think is the snapshot or the temperature of how people feel around this?
Yeah, I mean, I think just really quickly, I want to correct something that Billy said, that the Russian broadcaster was not banned because of the Russian government's actions in Ukraine. They were banned because fundamentally this is a competition between different broadcast associations and the Russian broadcaster broke rules. There's not been any indication that the Israeli broadcaster has broken rules or engaged in propaganda, so just firstly for that. Secondly, I think the temperature around this is after 2 years of war, incredibly overheated, and I think incredibly, you know, in proportion to the amount of people that actually care about this day to day, I think it's become way out of proportion. And there's a minority of people who want to see Israel completely removed from every example of public life in the country around the world. And, you know, if you look at the results of the public vote, where Ireland and Spain both gave Israel 12 points, I think it's a minority of people. And, you know, while the debate is overheated in this space, I don't think it's reflective of the reality.
But Billy, do you think it's gotten more sort of poisonous with its tone on this particular topic versus some of the other examples of politicisation of the Eurovision Song Contest?
I think it's gone poisonous because of the images we're seeing from Gaza. I think the whole situation has changed. In the last few months, people look at it now as more as a humanitarian crisis, the images of the IDF shooting people, killing people who are seeking aid. I think everybody's right to feel outraged about that. And what can we do here in the West? You know, in the 1980s, it was South Africa that we were fighting against over apartheid. And we undertook a boycott. You know, you look to see where your fruit was coming from. If it's coming from South Africa, you can still do that with Israel. We could ban them from taking part in sporting events, from cultural events. And I think that kind of pressure is the sort of thing that individuals can do, even if our government won't step up. I'd like to see the Labour Party, the Labour government, step up and stop selling arms to Israel. You know, we're in many ways, we're felicitating what the IDF are doing in Gaza, and I think we should, all of us, be out in the streets complaining about that.
So, Josh, is Eurovision the place to make those protests?
Look, I would say that if someone could explain to me how banning Israel from Eurovision saves one Palestinian life or ends the conflict in Gaza, I think, you know, hopefully all of this will be irrelevant because there's a peace deal on the table, and if that gets accepted, then the war will be over, which many Israelis, Jews all over the world and many people want. I don't think Eurovision is necessarily the place for it, in the same way that I don't think cultural boycotts more generally are the solution to this diplomatic and political crisis. You know, I think when you do cultural boycotts and when you marginalise people from the creative community, what you're saying is, these people who are often the more reasonable aspects of Israeli society shouldn't be listened to, shouldn't be heard from, shouldn't be whatever. And so what that says to Israelis is that, look, you don't want to hear from us at all. These are our more reasonable people. Then, you know, we don't care what you want to say either.
What's your response to that, Billy?
Well, that was the same with South Africa. You know, obviously those black artists wanted their voice to get out. But the cultural boycott of South Africa, I think, did have an effect. If you look at what happened with Paul Simon and Gracelands, there was a lot of pressure on them. Massive demonstrations here in London against South Africa outside their embassy. And I think we're coming to the stage where you do see that. And I'm afraid, I feel sorry for those people in Israel who are, like us, protesting against this war. And I also hope very much, Josh, that the peace deal does work and we do have peace. But in some ways, by protesting against Israel being in the Eurovision Song Contest, we're standing with those people in Israel who are trying to stop the war, who are on the streets every day protesting the Netanyahu's government continued policy to destroy Gaza.
What's your sort of view, Billy, though, towards those actual individuals that I guess Josh kind of referenced? The performers, who might have been training for a long... You often think about that around Olympics. You know, people spend their whole life and career. It's not quite the same scale when it comes to Eurovision. Not suggesting that the same level of preparation doesn't go in. But what is your message, though? They might well be the people who are sharing the same point of view as you.
60,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza, 20,000 of them children. I'm more concerned about those than the careers of some singer-songwriters.
But do you, I mean, I guess, do you think that will change the outcome of a peace deal?
It sends a message. Fundamentally, it sends a message. You know, Israel is a country that portrays itself as a Western democracy, and it's very proud of that. You know, that's why they're in Eurovision, because they're a pluralistic democracy. And in that situation, they have to be held to a higher standard than you might hold another country that's not a democracy or is a failed state. And because they're in Eurovision, we have the opportunity to send a message, not just to the people who watch Eurovision, but to the people of Israel, that we too would like to see an end to this terrible, terrible conflict.
Josh, interesting, of course, timing to be having this discussion, given that a peace deal is on the table. It seems hastily engineered by the Trump administration. I think that's perhaps fair to say, but thus far seemingly accepted by Israel, albeit not sold domestically yet. Waiting for the response from Hamas. Are you optimistic on that? Are people optimistic, or is it going to be just like all the many other deals we've seen before them?
Well, I mean, look, I think the fact that there's even this deal that's been supported by the majority of the Arab world, has been supported by countries like Turkey and Pakistan and other players, like we have never seen that before so far in this war. I think what I would just say on a sort of personal level as a British Jew and as someone that has family in Israel and cares a lot about it, I think we all want to see an end to this war. And I think we all hope that, you know, hopefully this is the plan that will engineer a situation that's acceptable to everybody.
Josh and Billy, thank you both for joining us. Good to see you both.